Tonight it's fantastic to see so many people turned out here in protest against the union subjugating protocol. And as we stand here in Ballymoney tonight, make no mistake, we do so under the jackboot of the Irish government and the European Union. We are now second-class citizens within our own country, told that we must accept the demolition of our union and that we must do so with good grace, because otherwise the border might go where it belongs and nationalism might not like that. And you see, that works from the core ethos of this so-called peace process. And the ethos of the peace process is and always has been this: unionism must give and nationalism must get. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have given enough long ago and we will give no more. This shameful, corrosive, union dismantling so-called peace process has strangled our community, our culture, our identity, our status as equal British citizens, as one humiliation after another has been put upon our community. The only surprise that I have is that unionism didn't collectively say enough is enough long ago. We've had to endure the dehumanisation, the destruction and the criminalisation of the UDR, the RUC and the Loyalist community, whilst IRA terrorists walk about with OTR letters of immunity in their back pocket. People did not fight and die for that. The hounding of our brave veterans who served in the British Army, who served in the UDR. And this hounding, as we've seen this week, is ably assisted by a judicial system which has been, let's just say, the balance is out of all semblance of any type of balance or impartiality within the judiciary. We now have a police force which, in their own words, and this is their words, not mine, I have this in writing and I believe so too does Mr. Alistair, our police force say we do not investigate the IRA. That is the PSNI's own words. They've no difficulty investigating loyalists, of course. And this is the same PSNI who recently colluded with Sinn Féin and the IRA to allow mass law-breaking at a terrorist funeral, and then took 6 months to negotiate an interview with Republican terrorists. And then, when it came to investigating the same alleged offences in relation to these anti-protocol plaids, did the suspects get 6 months? Or a negotiation of an interview? No. The police were at people's doors within 24 hours. I don't know if you agree with me, but if that's not two-tier policing, then I don't know what is. And these are just some of the examples, because I'm trying to keep this short. If I listed them all, we'd be here all night. These are just some of the examples of the apparent concessions unionism has been expected to endure in the name of this apparent peace. But it's never really been peace. It has always been peace with a gun to its head. Because the perpetrators of terror in the IRA, the aggressors in the conflict, they never came to the conclusion that they were wrong. They never apologised. They never changed their mind that their terrorism was correct. They simply think they can get more out of the democratic process. Because, make no mistake about it, if the Provisional IRA decided tomorrow that they would be able to get more by going back to bombing and butchering our community, they would do exactly the same thing again and never think otherwise. So to put it simply, unionism is expected to facilitate the incremental destruction of our identity and place in the union as a trade-off for a conditional peace, which is conditional upon the ethos that unionism must give and nationalism must get. And those in pro-agreement unionism urge support for the Belfast Agreement based on the premise that the principle of consent was a sufficient safeguard for the union. But they were deceived. And they in turn, perhaps if we're kind, inadvertently deceived others. As the Court of Appeal has made clear, the principle of consent is no safeguard. It's more like a chocolate fire guard when it comes to the union, and that is not what anybody was promised in 1998. Because you see, when it comes to Northern Ireland's place within the union, you can change everything but the last thing being the final formal transfer of our sovereignty, the handing over of the title deeds, or, as others have aptly put it, including Sir Geoffrey and Jim Allister, you can salami slice the Union, you can cut it off piece by piece, pardon the pun, but so long as the Union remains technically alive, its butchering is somehow permissible. And so the Court of Appeal equally confirmed the Act of Union, which is the Union, by the way, has been subjugated. It is under the jackboot of the Northern Ireland Protocol, designed to hold Northern Ireland, to hold us, our community, hostage, slave-like, within an economic United Ireland, expected to participate in a process to facilitate our own destruction. The obvious conclusion, therefore, as set out very well this week in writing by both Sir Geoffrey, Jim Allister and the PUP leader Billy Hutchison, if you can hand lawmaking powers to the EU without offending the apparent principle of consent, then you can equally hand lawmaking powers to Dublin. Is there anybody here that will tolerate joint authority over our wee country? No! Because if that's the case, now is the time to stand, because, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at that point. To go back to the institutions of the Belfast Agreement, even if the protocol was removed, whilst the fundamental deception on consent remains as a corrosive, beating heart of the agreement, would be an act of constitutional self-harm. A few weeks ago, a particular Unionist leader said that some of us want to destroy the Belfast Agreement. It's about the only thing he's been right on. I do want to destroy the Belfast Agreement. It's rotten, it's corrupt. It's rotten, it's corrupt, and for 24 years has brought absolutely nothing but the destruction of our cherished place within the Union. And the Belfast Agreement is the father of the protocol, and therefore it follows that in order to safeguard the Union, the entire bloodline of this wicked process must be eradicated, and that means the protocol must go, the Belfast Agreement, deceptive as it is, must go, and it's time for unionism, each and every one of us, to collectively say, enough is enough! And now is not the time for implementing our own destruction via the protocol or the Belfast Agreement. And just to point out to that other Unionist leader, it's most certainly not the time for implementing the protocol with additional North-South bodies. Instead, now it's a time for unionism and loyalism of all shades to take a stand. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is not coming when every loyal citizen of Ulster may take their stand. The time is here, and the time is here now. And every person standing here tonight and across Ulster faces a choice to embody the spirit of the Ulster Covenant, or to lie down and accept for ourselves and our children that we will live under subjugation, that we'll be treated as second-class citizens under the jackboot of an economic and cultural and eventually sovereign United Ireland. And I hope the loyal people of Ballymoney will join me in sending a message to Dublin. You will never take Ulster. We will never be your subjects. We will never exist meekly in a United Ireland, economic or otherwise. And most of all, we will never tolerate the imposition of a protocol or the continuation of a process which is designed to dismantle and destroy the Union that our forefathers fought and died to defend. In 1912, a man called Charles Frederick Darcy, later Archbishop of Armagh, stated his church's reason for signing and supporting the Ulster Covenant. He said this: "We hold that no power, not even the British Parliament, has the right to deprive us of our heritage and British citizenship. And that principle remains as true today as it was then. Not even Parliament has the moral authority to take from us which is ours as of our birthright. The loyal sons and daughters of Ulster did not lay down their lives in 2 world wars and fighting against the IRA for the lily-livered government and an even weaker parliament and a Prime Minister who is partying in Downing Street while the British citizens of Ulster are held hostage in an economic united Ireland. We do not care what Boris Johnson says. We will not have it. We will not tolerate it. And he can party on, but he will never party on over the rights of the loyal people of Ulster. And think about it, ladies and gentlemen. The Irish government that used the threat of IRA bombs to leverage this wicked protocol upon us. And what is our Secretary of State doing? He's having tea and buns and issuing joint statements with the Irish government's meddling aggressor, Simon Coveney. The Irish government come to Northern Ireland and swan around as if they own the place. And it's perfectly legitimate that Unionists and Loyalists exercise a basic right of peaceful protest, and I do emphasise peaceful protest, in order to ensure that Irish government officials will no longer be able to behave as if they have some kind of authority in this part of the United Kingdom, whilst they continue to use the threat of IRA bombs to hold our people hostage. Our Secretary of State, of course, tried to convince us that there wasn't even a border in the Irish Sea. Such treachery, such lies, and such deceit. Those Conservatives who were bombed and murdered in Brighton, Early Neve and others, must be turning in their grave when they see the likes of Brandon Lewis selling our precious union slice by slice. So it's time, and I hope the people of Ballymoney agree with me, Brandon Lewis, it's time to go. If he wants to have tea and buns with the Irish government or issue conciliatory statements with his newfound friends in the European Union, then he can do it on his own behalf rather than purporting to speak on behalf of the people of Northern Ireland. And last summer the temperature was lowered because we foolishly, naively trusted the UK government's command paper issued to try and calm Unionist and Loyalist anger. It was a false promise, a clever device to lower the temperature over the marching season. We won't fall for that again. It's time for action by the government, not more words. So here is a message to our own government. Take a lesson from 1912. Loyalty goes both ways. And if you think for 1 minute that we will ever allow you to sell our homeland piece by piece, then you're living in a fool's paradise. And as for the Irish government, you keep your covetous nose out of the internal affairs of our country. Your political meddling is neither wanted nor welcome in this sovereign British territory. This isn't your country, and it's about time you realise that. We aren't your subjects, and we never will be. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, this protocol will never be allowed to coexist with political and societal stability. It was right to say no in 1912. It was right in 1985. It was right in 1998, and by God, it's right now in 2022. And listen carefully to this, and I hope the British government listen to this. The principles set out and the words set out in the Ulster Covenant, all of them remain as valid today as they did then. There is nothing we will not do to defend for ourselves and our children our homeland, which was built upon the blood, sweat and tears of our forefathers. No self-respecting unionist or loyalist is in the mood to listen to Jerry Kelly, the old Billy bomber, telling us to dial down the temperature or dial down the rhetoric. Quite the reverse. It's time to politically fire it up. And the last message tonight, and let them hear you in Dublin, after 24 years of this so-called peace process, our message, the Unionist message, is clear. Enough is enough!